Welcome back to part 2 of this 3-part mini series all about quizzes and how the heck you can use them to enhance your company's results in a lot of different ways we're learning. Last week, I shared a behind the scenes look of my experience step by step creating my very first branded quiz for my company. And if you are ready to improve your content, I invite you to take that and see what results you fall into and what tips I have to help give your content a makeover. Today, we are talking with Interact's co founder and CEO, Josh Haynam. And we're going to get into Interact's new AI quiz maker, creative ways to use quizzes to enhance your content funnel throughout multiple examples, and give your customers something that they're going to gladly enjoy taking. An easy ask, right? We love that. A lead generation quiz that your audience is going to love to take. So, Josh Haynam is the CEO and co founder of Interact, and Interact is the lead generation quiz platform used by more than 10,000 brands around the world. Josh is a lifelong entrepreneur and has started and run several companies over the last 2 decades. Welcome to Marketing with Empathy, where we help marketers and business professionals create content that drives better business results, content that attracts and engages new and existing customers. How? By planning content through an empathy lens, positioning your customer as the hero and you and your brand as the guide that they want to buy from because you get them. I'm your host, Sarah Panus, and I understand how hard it is to juggle all the demands coming at you. As a content strategist and certified story brand guide, I have more than 20 years of experience creating winning content plans for brands of all sizes, including Sleep Number, Starbucks, Nestle Waters, Lindt Chocolate, SheFit, and numerous mid and small size businesses, helping drive millions of engagements and sales each year. And this podcast is in the top 5% of all marketing podcasts thanks to your support. Now, a quick word from today's sponsors, and then we'll jump right into part 2 in my discussion with Interact's co founder and CEO, Josh Haynam, around what additional insights you can learn to implement fantastic powerhouse quizzes in your own company. And if you're feeling like you want to give quizzes a try or even switch platforms and try the Interact platform, I have a special link for you in the show notes and podcast description here. Click on that to get a free trial of Interact. Try it for free. See what you think. All right, Josh. So, as we talk all about quizzes today, talk to us about the different business problems a quiz can help solve. So, it helps us think about, all the ways that they're good and when companies should use them.
The primary use case, like the main use case that quizzes are really helpful for, is in automating answers to very common questions that you get at the very top of your funnel. So let's say, for example, like you're a health coach and everybody always asks you through your DMs or on your website or when you talk to them, like, what kind of workout program should I do? Because you help with workouts, right? That would be your quiz, like literally what kind of workout program should you do? And then you'd have that on your site and on your link in bio and socials so that it automates that problem that everybody's coming to you with like all the time. So that's the number one use case. Number two use case is what I like to call topical quizzes, which is one specific topic within your business. So it's not the primary thing that you help people with, but it's like a subset, right? So let's say you have a subset of your business that's all about doing cardio, and you have a specific quiz on cardio that's like test your cardio levels or what's your cardio level, something like that. That's a more kind of spot solution. It's not for your entire business, but it does do one piece. And that's often used within the context of blog posts or specific courses that you offer if you're selling courses, or on specific product pages if you're in e-commerce. So you can do like a famous one is from Lush Cosmetics. They use Interact. And they'll have different quizzes on different product pages, like which bath bomb should you buy, which face mask should you buy, that kind of stuff. So that's the number two use case. I'd say the split between those, like 80% are doing the primary one, where it's like this thing is answering the question that people ask me all day long, and it helps me automate that part of my business. And then the other 20% is that more engagement and like fun play within specific parts of the business.
I'm a big fan of quizzes myself in terms of being excellent lead generators, excellent ways to help fill in the gaps and blanks for both the customer as well as for the brand, because they can give you a lot of additional insights based on how people answer too. So, do you find then, Josh, are there any unexpected ways to use quizzes that most people ignore?
That's a good question. What I like to do is I go into a business and I start with that primary one, right? If I'm working directly with a client, which I do, on occasion, I'll work from the top. I'll start with like the biggest problem that you help people with. But then what's really fun is when you dive beneath the layers, right? You'll start to find there's all these opportunities within this little part of your business or that little part of your business. Or there's a really fun quiz you could do within this tiny niche that's like one little thing that you help with, but it turns out there's a really fun quiz to do there. So that's where some of the creative stuff comes from. It's kind of like layers below the top, where you'll get into just like, there's this really fun, interesting idea we can do. I think one that comes to mind off the top is from Amy Porterfield. She has this really cool podcast player recommendation quiz. So it gives you like a list of the top few podcasts to listen to, because she has hundreds at this point. And so it'll give you like a couple based on like where you're at and your needs and things like that. This is a fun way to really personalize and get into your business and make something like a podcast that could seem very broadcasty into something that's much more personal. Those are my favorites, honestly.
I love that. I hadn't seen Amy Porterfield's quiz like that with podcasts and how you can get deeper into serving up specific episodes. It makes me think companies could do that for their blogs, specific articles and things that are useful. It's a great way to repurpose content. I talk about in the show about repurposing existing content in different ways. The quiz is a cool way to package that up, isn't it? Does she promote it through her email or is it on her site specifically? I'm just curious how that gets served up to people who want to listen to her podcast and then funnel it that way.
Yeah, I like to put these quizzes in the path of research, basically, like where are people going to look for Amy's podcast episodes, and that's where the quiz shows up. So she's got it on different podcast pages, like the podcast homepage on her site. I think it's in one of her links in bios, things like that. So when people are clicking to be like, oh, I want to go listen to this podcast, you meet them there. That's the ideal, is like when somebody's thinking about what should I do here, what should I listen to, what should I read, I have this problem, I'm trying to reach this goal. Then you hit them with the quiz right there in that moment. That kind of just in time content idea. That's the perfect place to put it.
Excellent. Okay, so since you are the man who knows everything there is to know about quizzes, this is kind of how I picture you in my head based on what you've started and created with this company. For all of us, like listening, I'm new into creating my own quiz. I've just recently launched my own quiz using your platform, using Interact. Walk us through the tips for, how to construct a quiz, like for folks that are listening that are like, yeah, I want to do it, but I'm not really sure where to start and what to do.
Yeah, so this goes layers deep. We made an AI last year that makes quizzes. So you like put in a website URL, it reads the URL and then makes a quiz. So that AI has to really, really, really understand how to make a quiz, because AI is not very smart. And you have to tell it every little detail. So long answer is it's close to 300 pages of a document that teaches the AI how to make a quiz. I won't read 300 pages right now, but I'll give you the the spark notes on it. Basically, you start out with that idea for what your quiz is going to be about. And I always like to either start with what's the problem that people always come to you asking for help with, or what's the goal or life dream that people always come to you for help with. You're really automating what it is that you help people with using a quiz. That's the best type of quiz. Like, it just works over and over again. This is year 11 for us. So we've seen over a billion quizzes have been served up through the Interact platform. And so we've seen a lot. And really what works is like when you're automating how you help people. So whether you help people solve a problem or you help people achieve a goal, or maybe it's kind of both, and those are two sides of the same coin, that's the concept with which you build your quiz idea. So you turn that thing that you help people with into your quiz idea. Once you've got your quiz idea, Then you're going to go into the results of the quiz. So that's actually at the end. You do the end first. And the reason why you do that is the results of your quiz are just the ways that you help people. So you don't help everybody in the same way, like based on who your customers are. They have different ways that they want to be helped, that they like to be helped, that they like to be worked with. And you're probably going to have like 3 or 4 of those personas of the types of people that you help and different ways that you help them. So those become the results of your quiz. I would say you don't have to start off very long. You kind of just start off with a very positively framed way that you can be helpful to them. And then you also, everything about a quiz has to be personal because it's all about this one-to-one medium. So that's really important. Once you've got those ways that you help people establish the results, then you work backwards from there. You write questions to figure out, okay, who is this person and like which way should I be helping them? And the key with writing quiz questions is you really want to just picture your ideal person, your ideal customer, like in front of you. How would you ask them if you were forced to actually ask them in real life? And it keeps you very honest to make those questions much more interesting and compelling because as I'm sure a lot of you feel like the temptation online is always to make things very formal and very like cold and formulaic, and that does not work with a quiz because it's just one person taking it at a time. Like there's no broadcast, there's no email being sent out. It's one person going back and forth with you, and if you ask questions in this very formal tone, they're not going to want to answer those questions. So do like 5 to 10 questions on average. Right around 5 is the ideal. And then your quiz is really just going to be you, the way that you would help people when they come to you and say, hey, can you help me with this? Or could you help me reach this goal? Yeah, for sure. Now I'm just going to automate my process with that, put it into this quiz, and then I can help more people because really where a quiz becomes vital for a business is when you just don't have time to talk to every single person that's like, hey, how should I do this, how should I do that? And that's actually, our AI quiz maker is a quiz, which is very inception. Um, because for us the number one question that people always ask us is what we're talking about now, like how should I make a quiz for my business? And our AI makes the quiz for them and it solves that problem. And it's a quiz that makes the quiz for them. And so think about what it is that people are coming to you for that you just do not have time to do manually or talk to specifically each person to get them to that goal. What can you do to automate it? And that's where your quiz comes from.
So, follow up question on that piece then, because when I made my quiz, I don't think I used the AI version option because I manually just wrote and did everything myself. Is that a choice, or was AI playing a role in some way and I'm just unaware of it?
Yeah, it's a choice, and it's just a starting place choice. So if you start with the AI, you can always change things manually. You can do everything manually if you've already kind of got a quiz thought out or you've been planning it for years or whatever. But the AI will take whatever you have on your site or whatever information you give it, and then give you a first draft, and then you can modify it manually from there.
Cool. I'm gonna play around with that AI version because I did everything manually myself. I didn't select the option where it helped me do that. It took me a lot longer to do it, but because it was my first time doing it, I preferred that actually because I wanted to really ingrain like how to do it and all the steps that way as I'm working with other clients who are interested in a lead generator that's a quiz, I could be more knowledgeable and helpful having gone through each of the steps. Of all of those steps that you mentioned then in terms of how to make the quiz, I would echo 100% that idea of once you have your idea, like step 2 being where you actually go to the end and then you work backwards. It seems counterintuitive a little bit, but it makes complete sense. It helps everything be so much clearer. So when you go to the end, you think of, well, what are my results and how do I help people? And that like helps you identify those results. That for me is what took the most time was the results pages and thinking through exactly what I wanted to share. And that was the most writing of any of the processes, but so useful in terms of kind of backdooring into like, okay, well, these are the personas. And how do I make this fun, to your point, and conversational as I'm thinking about the questions for these groups of people? There's companies that can have an endless supply of quizzes, really, depending on how they're using them. And like you mentioned, the Lush Cosmetics example of, for each kind of product category, they have one which is super smart. How often should you change your quiz, or like when do you know it's time to change it?
Yeah, I think it goes back to how you're helping people because those are the results of the quiz, right? So if the way that you're helping people is updated or changed, maybe one of the ways that you help people is a course and you make an update to the course, then you'd want to go update your quiz results. Maybe one of the ways that you help people used to be one on one coaching, but you've graduated from that and now you're doing group coaching, then you can go in and switch it at that point. The thing that's wild about quizzes is that I've seen quizzes not change and be live for 8 or 9 years. Um, and what's interesting about a quiz is that your services and your offerings might change, right? Which would mean that you'd want to go in and update that in the quiz, but also your customers' needs might change. So they might take it once and get, the low level offer. Then they might take it again when their business has grown, and then they get the mid level offer, and take it again, they get the top tier offer, and you don't have to do anything in order for that to happen because the logic is gonna just do its own thing every time someone takes it. So you can have people come back, and some people actually recommend that for their clients, like, hey, come back and take the quiz after you finish my course because your results should change if you have different answers now that you've gone through my course, and then maybe you need the next thing. So it has this built-in dynamic aspect to it, which is really cool.
Yeah, and there's so few marketing tools that have longevity like that. I think quiz falls into that realm that can live for a really long period of time. Blog content can live for a really long time. Podcast episodes can live for a really long time. And in some instances, Pinterest can live for a really long time. Like those are like the four I would say just off top of mine are the ones that really have a lot of sticking power to them, which makes it a great investment because you don't have to be changing it often. Let's say you're not getting as much volume of answers right away. How long do you wait until maybe you tweak the title and the hook and the lead?
It's like a number of people that go through it versus an amount of time. Because,
Okay.
if you have a quiz up and it's buried somewhere and you have three quiz takers, it's not a good amount of data to make a change. But I'd say I usually start around 30 when 30 people have gone through the quiz. That's where I'll start to make tweaks or make changes. And you can see analytics by date range. So you can see how your changes do make a difference. Another big thing that's helpful to do is actually have somebody that is the ideal quiz taker, like the person that you want to have take the quiz, give you that product feedback. Because I consider quizzes to be a product. Like they are much more than just a piece of content. Like it's an actual living product. So I usually try to do product research calls with people that are the ideal quiz taker and just kind of have them give their stream of consciousness. Like, how does this title hit you? What do you think of these questions? Are there places where this makes sense or doesn't make sense to you? Is this quiz exciting to you? Those types of things to get that real granular feedback, because at the end of the day, it is still a one to one medium. And so, feedback from one person who's the ideal quiz taker is very, very helpful in terms of making those tweaks and edits. Because sometimes the numbers can be a little confusing, like, and maybe more people are completing it, but it's the wrong people. And then that doesn't really help you on the back end either.
And as you're talking, when I first prefaced this conversation, I was thinking of quizzes as lead generators, from new potential customers. But as you've been sharing these examples and things too, so now it's like the wheels are going in terms of for everyone listening, right? It could be a lead generator where you're trying to attract new people. It could be after they've bought the product, to your point of, hey, after you've bought this product or this service, here's this quiz to re engage and kind of assess where they're at and maybe answer common questions that you can automate things if you take that path. But then also I'm thinking like re-engagement with existing customers, like for you people who already own or have worked with you, that's a great opportunity too to re-engage that community. This is a great content lever to pull because quizzes are fun. They're easy. They don't take a lot of time, as well as you've done and written the quiz well and conversationally. To your point, Josh, it's enjoyable. I know my quiz takes 40 seconds. It's a low ask for people, and they're gonna get some great insights back. Like for mine, it's what content makeover can best help your organization, and I framed mine around something kind of fun with like home makeover shows, like this parallel between, we know this idea of home makeover shows and what they do to kind of improve the home. Well, I'm taking that concept and putting it with companies to say, okay, well, company, well, what if your, company was a home makeover show? Which one would you be? And what would be the things that we can improve in your content plan based on how you answer these questions to improve the results of what you're doing with your content already? So I just love quizzes. They're so fun. I take them often with a lot of different brands. And then, of course, now that I've done my own, I'm very aware of them all over the place. But I just wanted to flag that for everyone listening, that there's a lot of different parts of this, the content, like the hourglass funnel of where quizzes can play a role. I bet too, Josh, even internal communications and employees, like employee engagement around quizzes, not like the boring um, corporate survey that's asking them a few questions, but like actually like something kind of fun and interactive where you can get great insights about kind of how your employee base is feeling or doing around certain topic, right? I mean, gosh, there's just so many different applications. You've mentioned a couple examples already with Lush and Amy Porterfield. I'm curious, are there any other kind of favorite quizzes that you've seen that would be good to share some examples around?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, like corporate employee engagement stuff, I can't name names because of, privacy, but there's been some really big companies that have done super fun quizzes like that where it's a personality type quiz, but it's just within the audience. That often revolves around like corporate meetups or big meetings. They'll have a quiz prior to an event. Event quizzes are also really fun. Which speaker is like the ideal fit for you? And then that increases engagement because people are like, oh, I really want to watch this talk. Because oftentimes, if there's 20 talks, it's like, oh, I don't know which one exactly is going to fit me. You can just feed those all in and then make a quiz out of it. Another thing that's really cool that's been picking up, especially since the AI makes quiz generation a lot faster, is quizzes for SEO. So you can do quizzes on a page, you put some content around the quiz, describing what the quiz is about and whatnot. And quiz search traffic is just off the charts. It's crazy high. And so it's a good way to kind of get in front of more of your audience through search, which has kind of been making a resurgence in that way. So that's a very cool way that I've seen, especially for people to make just a whole wide variety of quizzes on different topics. I love seeing authors use quizzes. Gretchen Rubin is one of our customers, and she does all these really cool quizzes on like different topics that she talks about in her books, different themes from the books, and it's just such a cool way to like take a 200 or 300 page book and bring it to life and make it personal, and then it makes you want to go read the book, or if you've already read the book, it reminds you of the parts that really stood out to you. It's very, very cool to see that engagement on something that is deep. So I love how, like you mentioned it earlier, quizzes can repurpose and bring older content to light, or maybe bring long form content to light in a quiz format. There's open source information that you can use, like open source stuff from government websites where there's like really kind of boring long posts, but you can feed that into the AI and make a quiz out of it, and then cross collaborate that with your own work and make something very cool. So I love how you can make something that might be a little unapproachable to people more approachable in the quiz format. And then with the goal, obviously, to get them to go into that deeper learning later on. But as they're browsing through the internet or scrolling on social or whatever, the quiz is just a great way to stop, get their attention, and then move them over to something deeper.
I was reading, gosh, now I can't remember who the publisher was. It was one of the media outlets, and they had an online article, and it was really well done and really well written. But what was so intriguing was, they had the article and there's copy, a couple paragraphs, but then they'd have like a quiz question embedded in the story. And that tied to like a broader quiz that you could take. And it was cool because it just made a static blog article with text only suddenly very interactive. And so I think it's cool to think about how you can ask questions with your audience to get them to engage, to give you that feedback. And then as a content marketer, you can take those answers as additional insights to inform future content and give you those additional insights as well. There's just so many different levers that quizzes can play. So I'm totally on the quiz bandwagon, Josh. Like I really am. And so that's why everyone I wanted to have Josh come on and talk about this. So thank you for all of that. Is there anything else like related to quizzes that would be good for my audience to know that I haven't asked you about yet, but I should?
I think one really interesting way that people are using the AI tool is actually to get feedback on their content, because the AI reads your content or your website or blog post, any post that you put in, any content you put in, and then it boils it down to the main ideas in that content. So you can actually use it as a way to check, is my content conveying what I wanted to convey? Or am I talking in a way that doesn't actually make sense? So it's like the smartest person that you would ever meet, but they have no idea how anything works. And so if you feed in a piece of your content and it says, oh, I think this is about X, and you're like, no, this is supposed to be about Y, it's a great way to realize, oh, yeah, the themes on my page are not what I actually want them to be. And it gives you just like really, really good feedback and learning in that way. I thought that was like a very cool way that people had started using that tool.
So talk about all the ways that people can connect with you online and learn about Interact, anything that you want us to know related to your company, because you have an amazing product. It's super easy and intuitive to use as like an end user myself. So I definitely recommend everyone, like if you're thinking about creating a quiz, definitely check out Interact because it is, to your point, I mean, you've dropped some names, but you have a lot of really big names and big brands all the way down to very small size solo entrepreneurs like myself who are using it. And all of us can see benefit and leverage this. And the new AI rollout can save a ton of time too from an efficiencies perspective. Okay, so I'll shut up now. You tell us all the ways that people can connect with you.
Yeah, so the best way to try out the quiz is tryinteract.com/AI. It's free to sign up and make a quiz with the AI. So that's definitely the best place to get started. We also are pretty active on Instagram. At tryinteract is the handle. We do lots of collabs. We also have a podcast that's connected to the Instagram where we talk to our customers and we talk about themes and trends that are happening and just try to keep things open. It is called Grow. So
Okay.
Grow by Interact is the podcast name, and it's all about growth. Quizzes are at their best a way to just automate and speed up the growth of your business. And so that's like kind of the entire theme of what we like to talk about, because we're a small team, we're 13 people. So we try to be very open with our audience and vice versa. So that's the best place to connect with us.
That wraps up part 2 of this mini quiz series. Tune in next week as we hear from my quiz coach, Helen Moonshee, and we get into more advice around what I learned from her, back and forth around the process as I created my own quiz, and any additional uses and creative examples that she has seen from the hundreds and hundreds of quiz examples that she has helped either create or observed and includes in her Quiz Academy. Until next week, God bless.